It's your girl, Brandi Harvey. Thank you so much for joining us here at this month's Vault Empowers Talks. I'm so excited you decided to join me. Each month, we cover a different pillar, and this month is no different. We're talking business development. But before we get into the conversation, I need you to go ahead, like, comment, share, but subscribe. You gotta be committed and stay connected to the Vault Village. We got some new empowering stuff that you do not wanna miss. But I'm excited for this month's conversation. This month, I get to speak to founder and CEO of CultureCon and the Creative Collective. She is most known for creating brave spaces for Black and Brown creatives. Imani believes, if it seems too hard today, let's try again tomorrow.
Yes.
Welcome to Vault Empowers, Imani Ellis. How are you?
Brandi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you because you are for the culture.
Absolutely, yes.
Listen, you are for the culture, but I want to start in the beginning because you grew up as the super pastor's kid, like double pastor's kid. Not just my daddy was a pastor, but mama and daddy.
Mama and daddy. Met in Bible college. Yes, yes.
So look, you are covered, okay? You are covered and favored. So tell me about growing up with parents that were traveling ministers. How did it play into your own creativity growing up?
You know, it's so interesting because as children, that's our reality. So we don't know that it's different anywhere else. It's just everything that we know. And I think, you know, my parents did a lot of interesting work because not only were they missionaries, but they were also missionaries in really specific places like state penitentiaries and Air Force bases and like going everywhere. And we were traveling with them. And so I think as a kid, me and my sisters growing up just thought, wow, we move a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was much different from a lot of other childhoods. Our parents really kind of planted the seeds, and I think it wasn't until years later that I kind of saw that return on investment.
So what was the return on investment? Because when I think about what you've been able to create with CultureCon and taking an event and growing it and multiplying it, I feel like that's a lesson in faith.
Yeah, and the irony is that my name means faith. And in theory, faith sounded so great, but I think I'm realizing it's a muscle that has to be exercised.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I had a ton of faith. I think I was someone who thought you work really hard, you see the results of working really hard, but then CultureCon, I think, was the first time that between the faith and the vision, there was a huge gap. And I was like, so this is what it means to kind of just jump.
To jump.
Yeah.
So you started off at NBC.
Yeah.
And you stayed there for 10 years. With most millennial, Gen Zers, Xers, all the things, right?
Yeah.
Don't stay places 10 years anymore.
It's true.
So on your 10th anniversary, you leave NBC and you go CultureCon full time.
Full time.
So that was your first real big leap.
Yeah, and you know, I think externally it felt like my first big leap, but I had been taking a ton of leaps quietly that led, because I feel like every time it gets bigger, right? And so bravery, I think we wait for this big moment, but I think there's a ton of ways to show up bravery. I think there's a ton of ways to show up with bravery every single day. So the first time I felt brave at work was showing up with braids in my hair. And I know that's like, girl, what? But I was just like, can I really bring this part of me to work? And is the world gonna stop when a director comes in with braids down her back?
Yeah.
And you know what happened, Brandi? Nothing.
They were like, your hair is so cute.
They're like, you're so cute. And what I realized was, like, sometimes we create these worlds and sometimes we're in our own way. And so I think it's going into the boardroom and sitting at the table when you really want to run over to the couch and like maybe not say a word, or turning your camera on and having a point of view. Like all of those little steps of bravery, I think, help you exercise your faith until it seems like this huge jump. But you were preparing for it all along.
You were preparing for it all along. So take me back. You're in your apartment, in your little tiny apartment.
It was tiny.
In New York City.
Yes.
And you start bringing folks over to not just start something, but to stop something.
Yeah, your research is phenomenal. Because
listen, I can't make this stuff up now.
Wow. Yes, I've been someone who, if you're gonna complain about something, you gotta do something about it, or you gotta stop complaining about it. And I just did not see the type of kind of community that I was looking for. And there were amazing day parties and there were amazing like night parties. But I was like, but where do you go when you really need to pool your resources together?
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I've got really inspiring friends. I'm gonna invite them over and see what happens, but we're not gonna pretend here. We're gonna tell the truth here. And so the prompt was, what are you working on? And it doesn't have to be work related.
Yeah.
And so some people were like, I'm working on getting over a really hard breakup. And some people were like, I'm working on getting the courage to ask for a promotion. And so you would lay it out on the floor and people around the room could say, wait, I can help you with this, or I can help you with that. And I think that people were so used to pretending and holding their breath and pretending like it all was perfect, that to come into a space where people were like, oh, we're telling the truth here? It just felt different. And so as they were walking out, one of my friends, Ashley, said, this was great. Like, how often do you do it? What is it called? And before I could stop myself, my publicist hat said, oh, we do this once a month. And it's called the Creative Collective. And I'm like, girl, what? But that was how it started.
Yeah.
And then we just kept going and kept building.
Yeah. And so what I loved about how you started this was it wasn't about perfection. It was about spaces of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And so when you think about the culture and what you've created, how has that vulnerability, how have you had to kind of shed your shell and be more vulnerable to create these spaces, these brave spaces for people?
Yeah, I think, it shows up in our team. And as a leader of a team of, 30 people, also being able to show up very human and having a lot of empathy. And so those are some of the return of investment. Wait, sorry. Can I start over?
You can.
Okay.
You don't have to, though.
I don't have to?
You were fine.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not looking for perfection.
I know,
We're looking
but
for
I'm
vulnerability.
a publicist. I hate it. I know. But I think that's a part of it is I just spent 10 years as a publicist. And so I'm also course correcting.
You're always looking for the perfect, the perfect angle, perfect sentence.
No flyaways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think Creative Collective, that's why it felt like a breath of fresh air. Because there was no agenda, there was no KPI. It just was like, how are we doing today?
Yeah.
So I think when I think about the team and showing up as a leader, there's good days, there's great days, we're exhausted days.
Yeah.
And so just bringing all of that to work with you.
So bringing all that to work, you said that when people feel seen, that's the best marketing.
Absolutely.
When people feel seen. And so in creating CultureCon, I want you to talk about why CultureCon was so important of creating that space of people being seen and how you were able to multiply a 200-person conference into now a 3-city tour that is running out of room.
We're running out of room. We need more space, Brandi. We need more space. But, I completely believe that when people feel seen, that's the best marketing ever, because people are not used to being considered and they go into these spaces that weren't built for them and they're kind of just being tolerated, and it feels so different to show up in a space that says, welcome home. Yeah. We knew you'd be here. Take a seat. We've got the food. Yeah. It's just a different vibe. And so, what does it feel like when you go to a friend's house and she's like, oh, I'm so happy that you're here. Yeah. Versus walking into a stranger's house and then they're like, all right, can you sit down? Yeah. It feels different. Yeah. And so what we really are doing is scaling the intimacy of that apartment to thousands of people. So at heart, I'm an introvert. And so the irony is not lost on me that I built a conference for 7,000 people. But what we... The introvert builds a conference for 7,000 people. Like, are you serious, Imani? Are you serious? But what we do is we create pockets of space, so that we're really, we want you to talk to other people that you didn't come with. We want you to feel able to, discuss the last episode of Succession. Yeah. And it's okay that you don't know this person. Like, we're all here for the same reason. Yeah. Okay, so tell our audience really about CultureCon and why it's really more like a cultural icon right now. Like, you're like creating this whole space that's just iconic for Black creatives. I mean, you got the likes of Tracy Ellis Ross and Issa Rae, all these folks that
really exemplify Black culture. They wear their natural hair, all the things. So how, like, tell our audience, like, what you're doing to fuel that space right now at CultureCon.
Yeah, so CultureCon is really the embodiment of building a full life. So we think about business, this is one part of my life, and then we think about play, this is a separate part, mental health, that's over there, dating and relationships, that's way over there.
So all that's in CultureCon.
It's all in CultureCon, plus there's actually tangible workshops. Because how many times have you gone to a panel and it's just platitudes of how someone specifically did it?
Yeah.
No takeaways,
Yeah.
no next steps.
Yeah.
So we have hands-on workshops, we have breakout groups, we have office hours where you can do one-on-one conversations like this. And the whole thing feels like a homecoming because you can come by yourself, leave with friends.
Yeah.
It's a vibe. I love it. And I think, you know, my friends and I wanted to build something we didn't see in the world.
You wanted to build something you didn't see in the world. Where do you see CultureCon going?
Wow. I mean, now that it's my full-time job and passion, it's a little scary how big my dreams are because at a certain time, I thought CultureCon would stay as a pop-up. 20 people, one time a month. And I look back and it's like, you're limitless. And so for us, I think our secret sauce is our community.
Yeah.
So we're tapped into 150,000 people and we can say, what do you want next?
Yeah.
What do you really need right now? And a lot of what it is resources and tangible connections.
Yeah.
I think post-COVID, people are more lonely than ever before.
Yeah.
So how can we just bring that community back to life?
So that's what I really wanted you to talk about, the secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
Because you have really grown your business exponentially. I mean, 300 times plus. What has been the secret sauce?
Ooh, the secret sauce. I mean, I think there's a few ingredients in the secret sauce.
That's okay. You know, tell me the one that's like, you know, like your main.
I think the one is really thinking about the experience. I think people so often are thinking about the branding. Branding's important. They're thinking about the tagline. That's cute. But the experience, how do people feel when they interact with my experience?
Yeah.
What do they go home and tell their boyfriend after they came to CultureCon? And that's what I mean when I say being seen is the best marketing, because we don't have a ton of marketing dollars, but when people leave CultureCon, they go tell people and they bring those people back. And I think that's our secret sauce. You're gonna feel seen here. It was built for you.
The secret sauce is being seen.
That's it.
The secret sauce is being seen.
Yeah.
So here's what I learned about you. You said, I'm a very curious person. Yeah. And curiosity has been your kind of mainstay for how you've been able to build and foster relationships.
Yeah.
So remaining curious. How have you been able to build community wherever you go, outside of CultureCon?
I genuinely want to know how people got to where they are.
That's me, yeah.
I gotta know.
Yeah.
Like, why did you go here? Why did you major in that?
Yeah.
And I'm always gonna ask you your favorite food. I know a lot by what your favorite food is.
What's your favorite food?
Right now it's chicken tenders. And I need honey mustard. I really love chicken tenders because I'm in this phase now of nostalgia.
Okay.
My inner child is getting my full attention right now.
Wow.
Whatever she wants, right now she gets.
So chicken tenders with honey mustard.
That's it.
You need some fries to go with that?
Lately I've been doing a salad on the side, because balance.
Okay.
But if they're really good shoestring French fries, yes.
It's a wrap?
It's a wrap.
I just knew you were going to say for the culture in Atlanta, some lemon pepper wings. You know?
I did go through that phase.
I remember I saw one here. You were lemon pepper in it. Yeah.
Fried hard with ranch.
Listen.
Brandi, yes. Yes, absolutely.
So I'm excited about that. All right, so you're very young in doing this. You created something, you know, and you're a very, very young woman out here doing it. You're young in business. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? Although it wasn't that long ago.
You're right. You know, I think I would say to curb some of the worrying. I think when you're in your 20s, it feels like such a defining age, and it is.
Yeah.
But you're, to your point, so young.
Yeah.
So that's when you really should just be playful and exploring all of the different opportunities. I was very kind of like dramatic in the sense of, if this doesn't work out, my life is over.
Yeah.
And I look back, and some of that tenacity got me to where I am. I was very driven.
Yeah.
Every internship I applied for, I was like, I have to get it. But that sometimes was the sacrifice of being more playful. Sometimes I was like, I can't go play, I have to do my work.
Yeah.
So if I would go back, maybe a little less regimented, a little more like reel it in.
I love that because, you know, I just sat down with Dr. Darius Daniels, who's the pastor of Change Church. And one of the things he said when he was making a shift in his life in 2014 was that he started to find a rhythm and not a regiment.
I love that.
He found a rhythm and not a regiment to his life. Because when you first start out in things, you're like, I do this at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., everything is mapped out and planned out. And then he said, but it gave him no room, no flexibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so your 20s have offered you've learned to have a little more flexibility in your spirit.
Yes, and to trust myself a little bit more. Because again, I know I'm a hard worker. We know this.
Yeah.
So then how can you carve out for yourself some more time for play if you know you're a hard worker? And so now it's just a little bit more balanced than it used to be.
Well, I think the money helps, you know, the money helps when you start making a little more money, you know.
You can relax a little.
You can relax a little bit. You have a little more, and you said this, you have more opportunity to dream.
Yeah, and the focus.
Yeah.
Because I think when you are trying to say yes to everything because you don't know what you're focusing on, you know, your time is also money. And so thinking about all of these things as, okay, what do I value? Because now when something comes across my desk, I'm like, if it's a maybe, it's probably a no. Yeah. It's got to be a yes. Otherwise, you know, pour into yourself.
So pour into yourself, be curious, be flexible. Here's the one thing I want you to talk to our audience about. Building a team and empowering leaders, because initially you started off doing everything. You were the Instagrammer behind the scenes, and people didn't know. You were the one writing the Instagram post and doing all the stuff. And so as things started to grow, you found yourself, you know, still kind of reverting back into doing everything. Until you had a meeting one day and somebody was like, hold up, why are you even in this meeting?
They kicked me out of the meeting, Brandi. So what do you, shoo.
So how have you been able as a leader to empower other leaders? How have you been able to empower your team?
You really have to think about succession planning. And my mind is very binary, meaning in a year, do I want it to be, my life to be exactly the way that it is today? No, everyone wants to evolve. Okay, so if you want to evolve and you want to change, you have to change things. And I think what happens as a leader, especially if something's born out of your heart, it's if you keep undermining and, oh, I'll do it, oh, not like this, you're going to discourage your team. Because nothing will ever be good enough. Why are they even gonna try? You're just gonna come in and fix it anyway. You're undermining them. And so I think having empathy and being self-aware and saying, okay, it's not exactly how I would have done it, but that's actually great. Because otherwise this is a dictatorship. I thought we were a team. And so I learn a lot from like sports and watching coaches and their quarterbacks and watching how there is some room for play. And I think that's how you have to be, is kind of like get out of your own way and let your team cook, and they come up with things that are exceedingly beyond what I would have done on social media. Because that's not where I play.
It gives you a different vantage point.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you love sports. What's your favorite sport to watch?
Ooh, my favorite sport to watch, I'd say, is football.
Mine too. I love football. I love the good gridiron game. I do. I need somebody to get hit. I need to see some impact. Okay.
Like yes.
So, coaches, who have you looked to as a great coach?
So I love Coach Franklin. College football, he was at Vanderbilt, went to Pennsylvania. I think he just thinks differently, and he can revive a team. And I think as a leader, you have to have a level of optimism, but also reality. I feel like some leaders are so optimistic, it's like, okay, but like we're running out of money. Some leaders, though, are scared, and they are putting that fear in their team. And you need a little bit of both. I feel Coach Franklin is very much like, we're the underdog. There's a lot of obstacles ahead of us, but it is possible through these steps. And I love leadership like that, which is they're not delirious or delusional,
Yeah.
but they also can see that there's a prize to be won, and
Yeah.
we can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I love about Nick Saban. I do like Nick Saban.
Yeah,
and I
great.
know, you know, controversial coach for some.
Yeah.
But the record is he wins, right?
Yeah.
And he has a formula to winning. He and Bill Belichick. So, all right. So I love that you love sports, because I think that it's such a great way. When you talk about building teams, you talk about building business, they all have the same principles. They all have the
Absolutely.
same principles. So because you like coaching and teams, who's one person, living or dead, that you would want to have dinner with?
James Baldwin, absolutely.
James Baldwin.
Yes.
Tell me why.
I love James Baldwin. He's ahead of his time, and I think he did such a great job of conveying empathy and explaining what the Black experience really was in just such a poetic way. I'm actually going to Europe this summer and just going to do a James Baldwin tour, go to all the
Wow.
cafes that he was at when he was writing, go tell it on the mountain, and I think that's a big part of the work that I do, is, you know, conveying the Black experience and being sometimes a translator of sorts, because I think a lot of the messaging a lot of times is, you know, I feel like people are just so polarized, and there is somewhere in the middle that is, these are the resources that we need, these are the disadvantages we're up against, and this is the way forward, this is the way through. So you can't just mentor us. Give us capital.
Yeah.
You know, give us ownership. And all of those are a part of one big conversation. And I just think if I could sit down with dinner with James Baldwin, oh man, it'd be a wrap. I have so many questions.
That is so good. I think we would vibe on Black literature, because mine would be Toni Morrison.
Oh,
Toni Morrison.
that's so
She
great.
was on the list of like people I want to sit down with. That was so amazing. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of my Vault Empowers Talks with Miss Imani Ellis. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and get ready for episode 2. I hope you got your popcorn ready.